Nearly 2 years ago, Keir Starmer stood in front of the British public and made a promise. A simple, clear, unforgettable promise. He said, "I will smash the gangs. I will stop the boats. Trust me." 70,000 crossings later, he still can't tell us what Plan B is. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is Kilometre Reports, the channel that cuts through the spin and tells you what's actually happening in Westminster. Stay with me, because what happened in Parliament this week tells you everything you need to know about this Prime Minister. Let's go back to the beginning, because context matters here. When Labour was in opposition, Keir Starmer hammered the Conservatives relentlessly on small boats. It was one of his sharpest attack lines. He called the situation a national embarrassment. He promised that under his leadership, things would be different. The gangs would be smashed. The crossings would stop. That was the deal he made with the British public. Now, I want to be fair. Stopping small boat crossings is genuinely difficult. These criminal networks are sophisticated. The Channel is a complex legal and diplomatic minefield. Nobody serious thinks this gets fixed overnight. But here's what you cannot do. You cannot build your entire election pitch around a promise, win a massive majority on the back of it, spend nearly 2 years in Downing Street, and then refuse to answer a straight question about whether it's working. And that is exactly what Keir Starmer did this week at Prime Minister's Questions. So here's what happened. Nigel Farage stood up in the House of Commons and asked the Prime Minister a direct question. He pointed out that 70,000 people have crossed the Channel since Labour took office. 1,000 in a single week. He asked Starmer to acknowledge that the Smash the Gangs policy has failed and to tell Parliament what the plan is going forward. A reasonable question. A fair question. Frankly, a question that millions of people watching at home were asking themselves. And what did Keir Starmer do? He talked about council tax in Worcestershire. I am not joking. He pivoted, mid-answer, to attacking Reform UK's record on local council tax. He accused Farage of having no judgment. He made jokes. He got in his pre-prepared lines. He did everything except answer the question that was put to him. And I want you to sit with that for a second. Because 1,000 people crossed the English Channel in 1 week. 1,000. That's not a statistic. Those are 1,000 individual journeys, 1,000 individual arrivals, 1,000 individual cases that the Home Office, the asylum system, and ultimately the British taxpayer now have to process and deal with. And the Prime Minister's response to being asked about it is to talk about council tax. Now, Starmer did have something to say about Farage specifically. He accused Reform of voting against giving law enforcement counter-terrorism style powers to tackle the gangs. And that is a fair political point. Let's be honest about that. But here's the problem with that argument. Even if Reform voted the wrong way on that specific measure, and that's worth scrutinising, it does not answer the question. It does not explain why the numbers are still going up. It does not constitute a Plan B. It is a deflection. And the British public are not stupid. Farage and his Reform MPs were so frustrated that they walked out of the chamber entirely. Now, you can think what you like about that as a political tactic, and believe me, people have very different views on it. But the reason they gave for walking out was that the Prime Minister had just dodged a serious question on behalf of tens of millions of British people who want to know what is being done about illegal migration. And then, and this is the bit that really got me, Starmer turned to the chamber after they'd left and said, and I quote, "I can see Reform have walked out. They've obviously realised they are absolutely snookered." A punchline. He turned it into a punchline. While 1,000 people a week are crossing the Channel. I want to ask you something, and I genuinely want to know what you think. Drop it in the comments below. When a Prime Minister dodges a question this important, this publicly, this blatantly, is that a sign that he doesn't have an answer? Or is it a sign that he thinks you won't notice? Because those are two very different problems, and both of them should worry you. Now let's talk about where this actually leaves us. Because beyond the theatre of PMQs, the reality on the ground has not improved. The channel crossings continue. The asylum backlog remains enormous. The legal frameworks that were supposed to make enforcement easier have not delivered the results that were promised. And the government's own rhetoric has quietly shifted from "we will smash the gangs" to "this is complicated" and "we need international cooperation" and "the previous government left a mess." All of which may be true, but none of which is what Starmer promised. And there's something else worth noting. This is not a one-off bad week for the Prime Minister on this issue. The public polling on his handling of immigration has been consistently poor. When voters are asked whether they trust Labour on small boats, the numbers are bleak for the government. This is a wound that is not healing, it is getting worse. The local elections are coming in May. The doorstep conversations are happening right now. And the question that keeps coming up, according to Labour's own MPs who are knocking on doors, is not about defence spending or social media regulation or any of the other things Westminster is talking about. It's the simple, blunt question: why are the boats still coming? Keir Starmer does not have a good answer to that. And this week, when Parliament gave him the chance to give one, he chose a joke instead. Here's what I think. I think Keir Starmer is a man who is genuinely more comfortable attacking the opposition than defending his own record. At PMQs, he is sharp, quick, and often funny. But sharp and funny is not the same as accountable. And the British public voted for accountability, they voted for change, and what they are getting is deflection dressed up as confidence. The gangs have not been smashed. The boats have not stopped. And there is no plan B. If you think that's acceptable, fair enough, let me know why in the comments. But if you think a Prime Minister should be able to answer a straight question about his most central election promise, I have a feeling you're not alone. That's it for today. If this video gave you something to think about, or something to argue about, honestly, either one is fine, please give it a like. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people. And if you want to keep up with what's actually happening in Westminster, without the spin, without the cheerleading, subscribe to Kilometre Reports. We cover the Starmer government straight, every week, so you don't have to dig through the noise yourself. I'll see you in the next one.